welcome to another episode of the Access Vikings podcast. I'm Emily Leiker, joined by my Minnesota Star Tribune colleagues Ben Goessling, Andrew Krammer. We're out at TCO Performance Center in Eagan. We just wrapped up the second day of joint practices between the Vikings and the Patriots, the final day of training camp that fans could be in attendance out here. And, you know, it was quite the day for the Vikings offense. I know you two talked a little bit yesterday about McCarthy and May's separate days and how things looked and the comparisons there. And certainly JJ looked a lot better today. Andrew, you were actually the one over there watching him because we switched fields today. Just give us a little bit of a rundown on his performance.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw him completing pass after pass. It was, as Kevin O'Connell, to his delight, learned that it was 13 straight passes. He said, "You guys, I'm finally happy that you're taking stats because these are good stats."
Rep counting is not so bad.
Especially when McCarthy's dealing the way he was. And it was efficient. It was timely. It was evading and on the run. And McCarthy, I thought, what we heard from him after the fact was even more revealing about what we saw in terms of his thought process, what he was working on. I thought it was interesting to hear him talk about the layered throw to Addison in the corner of the end zone, the on-the-run throw to Aaron Jones deep, just the different kind of things, the elements of his game that he wanted to work on, Ben. It seemed like it all kind of came together today.
Yeah, and it is a window into how he thinks. And we've seen it, but to hear him say it kind of in that real-time environment where you see him struggle a little bit yesterday and then you see him come out and do what he did today. He is the type that he almost thinks like a golfer. Like, I need to go back to the driving range and work on my approach shot, or I need to work on how I'm hitting my 7-iron into a green or something like that. So he spends a lot of time thinking about mechanics, thinking about just details on that level, and when he has all of the tricks in his bag at his disposal, you do see, I mean, the throws on the run, the accuracy, a lot of those things are why he's picked where he's picked. Certainly a better endorsement of it than he had yesterday.
It's funny you brought up a golf analogy because Andrew and I were talking with some of the other beat writers beforehand about the mental side of McCarthy's game and how we often talk about it so highly because he is very strong in his mental game.
And he's a big golfer.
And he's a big golfer. But there are those times where being so in your head about your game can come with a drawback and you can overanalyze things. And he did talk today about being a perfectionist and really struggling with, like, okay, even on a complete pass, he's like, oh, I should have gotten 10 more yards on that. And that's something that tight end TJ Hawkinson, who's been a favorite target of McCarthy's throughout training camp, said Wednesday. He was like, I often come away from practices being like, hey, like, JJ played great today, and then he's like berating himself and is like, oh, I should have gotten this and that. So it's definitely interesting. There are pros and cons to being, I think, as in his head as McCarthy is.
That's a classic Hawkinson line, though. I wasn't there for it, but you guys were, I believe, and just I can picture him laid back being like, you did great, buddy. And
yeah.
JJ's like, no, man. Like, I think JJ had a good line, too, where he said, if I put a 20-yard kind of high crosser on him and I think it should be 30, I still need to learn to move on from that, be okay with it. I think he said stay neutral in that situation. For a 22-year-old, I mean, the kind of headspace this guy has to be in and consistently be mindful of where he's at. We've said it before, but I just think it's impressive to hear him talk. And then as we see the development on field happen, it's impressive to see those two things come together on a day like today.
Yeah, he does not think like most 22-year-olds.
No.
He's a little ways beyond that.
As the closest one to that demographic and someone who engages with 22-year-olds the most,
You're not thinking like that all the time?
No, I don't think they are. And it was a 22-year-old brother who's the same age as JJ. I can tell you that's not how it is. I love my brother, but anyway, the other thing I thought that was interesting about what JJ said was that you guys talked yesterday about how we know the Patriots came in having done a little bit more game planning for these practices and maybe did a little bit more of an intense study of Brian Flores' defense. And JJ kind of talked about having looked at the Patriots preseason game tape and being like, okay, this is what the defense is going to do. And then coming into Wednesday and being like, this isn't what they're doing at all. And so then I wondered how much of that correction to Thursday, you know, he said he kind of tried to come into today with the approach of like, hear the call, play the call. I'm just going to go with what I know is to be like true and not be thinking about the defense as much. Like, that was really interesting, I think, to hear his process around that.
And it's probably not a bad skill set to develop because he's going to see a lot of that once he gets his top receiver back. I mean, we hear this all the time that the Vikings will do scouting and say, hey, this team is in man coverage 60% of the time, and then they come out and it's split safety the entire game with a safety over the top of Justin Jefferson, and they basically throw out all of their tendencies because they're not playing Justin Jefferson most of the time. So we may see some of that requirement from him throughout the season, because he's going to get in those situations where what I get is not what I was expecting to get, and then the quarterback has to adapt to that. So probably not a bad thing for him to work on.
Yeah, McCarthy said that too afterward, where he goes, I was talking to Jefferson this week about that process, and he said yesterday it just didn't feel as good as today did. And Jefferson was saying, well, yeah, man, like, it's going to happen to you every week now, as you just said, Ben.
It is.
Jefferson was telling McCarthy that this week in the locker room, saying, we're going to walk in and teams are going to do nothing what they showed you on film against other teams because I'm here.
Well, Kevin O'Connell always used to refer to it. I remember asking him about it probably in 2022. It was actually before the playoffs that he coined the term the JJ effect, of course, meaning Justin Jefferson. At the time, you'd have to have a new name for it now, but the JJ effect,
Jets effect,
will have an effect on the new JJ.
The jet stream effect.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll come up with
something like that.
Well, we're still sorting
workshop.
out the nicknames for everyone and how we refer to people. But JJ McCarthy, I think overall a strong 2 days. Like, we agree that Thursday better than Wednesday, but I think in terms of just getting more reps against a defense that isn't his own, like, he only played 12 snaps in the preseason game.
This was the third time since he's been drafted that he's faced somebody other than the Vikings defense.
Yeah, which is crazy. And he said, he was like, yeah, these practices have been more valuable to me than those 12 preseason reps because I just spent 2 whole days going against first teamers the entire time. Obviously, we've talked about how in practice when they're going against their own defense, there's often a lot of 1s versus 2s and not 1s versus 1s all the time. They do some of that, but I think this was a really good 2 days for McCarthy, and I'm curious to see how he can keep that momentum up, considering he's not going to play Saturday, he won't play next week against the Titans, and has to kind of keep this going until they see the Bears in week 1.
Yeah, and before looking too far ahead, we should mention, I think one of the most impressive things about JJ's day-to-day is he did it with a wide receiver core that was mostly Lucky Jackson, Thayer Thomas, and then Jordan Addison, of course. Jefferson, as you mentioned, is out with the hamstring strain. Jalen Naylor got a left hand injury that Kevin O'Connell said he dinged up at some point in practice. He pulled himself from practice, got it looked at, got it wrapped up, but never went back in. So he was working with the second team wide receiver core, basically outside of Jordan Addison, and still threw some touchdown passes to Lucky, to Thayer. Some of those guys are making some plays, at least in the backup wide receiver spot. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it is. He's not had his full complement of weapons to work with really at all during training camp. So it's, that's probably worth keeping in mind, especially with the guy at the top of that list of the set of weapons he has.
So no JJ on Saturday, which we had been expecting, which we've told you guys before. I did ask Kevin O'Connell what the plan is for the other 3 quarterbacks, considering obviously Max Brosmer had a little bit of a standout showing last week and coming in at the end there in the 4th quarter with the touchdown to Miles Price. Has had a few flashy moments in camp this week too, or at least good throws that kind of got the bros conversation going between us at practice. And so Kevin O'Connell was not quick to be like, this is exactly what our game plan is at quarterback. But I think just based on his answer, it does sound like Max will get a little bit more time. I would assume, or I would guess, my posit would be that maybe he gets the entire 4th quarter this time instead of giving up a little bit of it to
More
Brett.
bro time on Saturday, in other words.
More bro time on Saturdays, the TLDR there.
Hey, for Gopher fans out there, O'Connell said he earned that extra time out there, and then he was quick to say, well, Brett Rippon also didn't look as poor as the box score indicated, so he wasn't throwing any of his quarterbacks under the bus, but he was trying to say, Max Brosmer looked good, he deserves some more time out there. And then, to clarify, he said Sam Howell will start.
Yes.
McCarthy will not play in that game. Who else do we think plays? Do we think he rests all the starters?
I wouldn't expect to see many of the starters. Yeah. I think we'll see a lot of the backups on Saturday. I think with 2 days of work, with as much first-team work as was here, he's been fairly forthright about that. I would expect we'll see almost all the starters. Maybe the occasional somebody that's trying to play for a job. Maybe Donovan Jackson, somebody like that. But
I don't know. My guess would be no, because I think they want to keep that unit together so much and not mess up.
Yeah, the only reason I could see it is if you just say we want a few more reps for him. But I could also see, like you're saying, where they said let's just not.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to see a lot of the starters on Saturday.
And we already saw, was it 12 rest in the first one?
Yeah.
So. Or half of them were already rested anyway, so maybe the other half will rest on
The list
Saturday.
will be longer.
The Patriots starter, who I guess we're still not entirely sure if we'll see Saturday or not, is wide receiver Stefon Diggs, obviously the former Vikings draft pick who was here for several years, Minneapolis Miracle, all of that. we did not hear from Diggs. Local media did not hear from Diggs this week. Andrew, you wrote a little bit today, though, about kind of some of the flare-ups of energy we saw from him and just what he was able to do the past 2 days.
Is he feeling okay?
You guys saw it.
You didn't have a cold?
There's truth to that rumor.
Truth to all rumors.
But no, Emily, you were the one who was actually watching a lot of that too. You and Ben, because I'm sure you guys saw between the fields. I didn't see a bunch of Diggs today, but on Wednesday, yesterday, certainly as well. So you guys could fill in the gaps for me. But on Wednesday, Stefon was flexing in front of fans, scoring touchdowns, spiking the ball, trying to make his presence well known in his return to Minnesota. But he doesn't want to talk to much media. He apparently has only spoken once to New England reporters throughout his entire time in camp for the Patriots, and so we weren't going to get him this time. But it seems like the B crew over there is under the impression he might play with a couple series with Drake May on Saturday. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if that happens, because I think the stipulation they've been given is I will talk after I play. So we'll see what happens there.
We'll be there if he plays.
We will, because we have to be. So, yes, we will be there if Stefon Diggs does, in fact, return to U.S. Bank Stadium.
We'll see. I don't know that there's a ton more to say. Like, he did have, like, some moments, but there also wasn't anything, at least today, there wasn't anything, like, overly flashy from him.
No, it was a lot of underneath stuff. And May has to get the ball out so fast against this Vikings pass rush. But the most interesting thing was what Vrabel was already having to answer questions about Diggs' contentment within the offense, because there was apparently by Minnesota native Todd Downing, who's now the receivers coach in New England, made a quote that was making the rounds with media there, where he said a few days ago that Stefon has to understand and not confuse the process for the results if there's a day he doesn't get a lot of catches. And so Greg Bedard with the New England media asked Vrabel about that this morning, and Vrabel's already having to say, look, it won't be every day that he's not getting a lot of catches. It'll be fine. And so that's me saying it, not verbatim, but paraphrasing Vrabel. So it's just interesting. He's on his 4th team, twice traded receiver, just got paid $20 million. He needs to be a leader for Drake May and that young offense. And Vikings fans know well how that goes sometimes.
We're in Eagan. There's a head coach from the Parcells/Belichick tree answering questions about Stefon Diggs' contentment. What year is this? Are you graduated from college? It's just very confusing.
It's already it's not even September yet.
Graduated from high school, I think I would have.
By 2019?
Yeah.
Hey, good job.
Hey, that's how we know so much about Gen Z now on this podcast.
Yeah.
Talking about age, we should also shout out Mike Vrabel, 50th birthday, big carrot cake fan apparently.
Yes,
that's how media started today. So okay, Andrew, you said you weren't sure if you saw this, or you saw the fight happen, but you weren't sure if you saw. I was pretty sure Vrabel got in the mix on another fight.
He was in the bottom of the pile, breaking it up. Yes.
Wasn't he bloodied earlier in or was that a different? That was Dan Campbell.
That
was Dan Campbell.
No.
Vrabel
was bloodied because I put it in the story yesterday. Was Vrabel got a cut cheek last week
against the Commanders?
When the Commanders were in town.
And so wait a minute, I totally missed this. Fill me and our listeners in. He was on the bottom of a pile today.
Yeah. There was like a shoving match. There's video of it circulating, but there was a shoving match. He was trying to break up.
Oh my God.
And then ends up going to the bottom of the pile for at least a couple of seconds. So, yeah, he's still got that lunch bucket mentality.
Wow. Jonathan Grenard did say after he was asked about the passion, I had no idea it involved the head coach for the Patriots, but he said, you got a bunch of guys out here fighting each other to make, put food on the table, get their next paycheck. This is going to happen. But
including the head coach.
But yeah, that was. We saw some scuffles. I saw one guy went after Ivan Pace, and clearly that Patriot did not know this man.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't do that. And there was a quick scuffle. There was another one involving Lucky Jackson, and got his jersey ripped down the side, and was playing in a ripped jersey the rest of practice.
Like Mac Hollins.
Yep. So there was some tension a little bit, but nothing that spilled over into uncontainable.
Nothing terribly fun.
Yeah.
No JJ in the middle of any of the
McCarthy shoving guys off the way that he did. Who is that? Tyler Batty?
Yeah.
Tyler Batty. Right after, that whole day started with a guy who's now a member of the Tennessee Titans, yes?
He punched $100 million worth of offense between Will Fries and Aaron Jones, and then got cut or waived, and claimed, and Brian Asamoah, you're right.
And now with the Titans, as we just said. But couple injuries, too. We already mentioned the Jalen Naylor, which it sounded like I think jammed was the word that Kevin O'Connell used.
He said dinged.
Oh,
I don't know what that means. Tweak? It was a tweak.
Tweak?
Oh, no.
Dinged?
No.
It was a tweak.
Oh,
He's
no.
done for the year. No, he's not.
No,
I'm joking.
Before we get into the
Some
rest of it,
flashbacks are more fun than others.
He might have said the other word too, but he definitely said dinged up.
before we get into the rest of the injury talk, does this for Naylor raise even more concerns about the wide receiver depth right now, for especially those first 3 weeks when Jordan Addison's going to be out?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, because, we're sitting there now. You got Justin Jefferson, obviously Jordan Addison suspended. And then if Jalen Naylor is dinged up to whatever degree.
Ron Dale's already on ice.
Yeah, the wide receiver depth, I think we had questions about the wide receiver depth coming into camp to an extent.
Yep.
I think that's a bigger problem now. The guy that I don't know that this is going to happen immediately. I mean, Lucky Jackson is going to be a big part of this, but if Ty Felton can start to play a bigger role in the offense as a third-round pick, and that's a little bit of a project, I think. I mean, I think they made that pick with a little bit of, special teams now, and then he can develop. But if they feel like there's any capacity that he's ready to play a little bit on offense, that could help at least get through a few of those weeks. But, they may not be there yet, and they may have to figure it out in another set of options. But that would certainly help.
Yeah, the depth is certainly thin, and you just have to wonder. Obviously, they want to bring along McCarthy, give him every chance to succeed, and you got to put the most sure-handed, precise targets around him. And as much as Thayer Thomas and Lucky Jackson make plays in camp, I don't think anybody's going to be projecting them into the regular season to be doing that kind of stuff. So, you got to wonder, is free agents that are out there, fans throw out Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen. People throw out there Brandon Powell, obviously a familiar face who's still around. There's guys who know the offense that could be available for you. I do wonder if they'll make a move just to get another body in there. And we don't know. Naylor might be back next week. It might have no issue. Yeah. But with Addison's suspension, Jefferson coming off what's going to be, that seems like a month off. He missed his 13th straight practice today, has been out for 3 straight weeks.
They did say he's going to be reassessed early next week. And it seemed like are hoping that he will be able to work back into action, but surely it's not going to be super intense action. They just might throw him back in with the wide receiver drills early in practice, or work in some one-on-ones with JJ would be my guess.
And I think you're going to see, just to kind of plant the seed, I think you're going to see a lot of days this season where when he's limited or he's not practicing because of a hamstring, I wouldn't make it that big of a deal. I mean, if it becomes something where he's missing time, yes, but I would expect there's going to be a lot of maintenance done on that hamstring. We saw it a lot last year where he's getting stretched out before practice and getting a lot of those things. And he likes to practice hard. We've seen that for his entire career. He doesn't like to miss practice reps, and he likes to go hard when he does practice. But I do wonder if they're going to say, this has been both hamstrings now, and this has been enough of an issue. Let's just play on the high side of caution here a little bit more often.
We should mention, too, Josh Metellus went down hard on that left shoulder at the end of camp, at the end of the joint practices. This was the Patriots situational drill where it looked like the Vikings defense was winning. They get a false start from Grenard, forcing on the rookie Will Campbell to jump early. And then they get a sack from Dallas Turner, really forces him back. And then May just heaves up this bomb to, I think it was Kayshon Boutte, who ended up catching the touchdown. And Josh Metellus goes up to try and defend it, but then comes down on his left shoulder, doesn't return. Defense didn't even go back out there anyway, the starters. But he was like letting that shoulder hang. O'Connell said afterward that we're going to have to get that tested and looked at here. He was signing autographs. He didn't seem like he was too alarmed by it. Wasn't like rushing in to get something looked at, but that's one to monitor, certainly.
Yeah, no doubt.
I did see, too, that ESPN's Kevin Seifert said that Metellus said he's fine as he walked off the field over on that end. So I didn't hear that myself, but I did see that out there. So he's at least in good enough spirits that he was able to say that to the media corps.
Yeah, I think if it was, a broken collarbone or something, you're not seeing him stay on the sideline. I mean, I think that goes differently, whether it's AC joint, some kind of a shoulder dislocation, that kind of thing. I mean, that you could see. I mean, I would think the tests will be, if there's a sprain, I mean, that's probably one of the things you're looking at. But, we'll see how things go with him next week. But, yeah, the fact that he stayed on the sideline and was still engaging and watching practice, at least, I tried to look when I think there was a turnover for the defense at one point. I was trying to see if he was among those who raised their arms in celebration, trying to get a window into it. But I didn't see well enough to have a definitive look at that. But the fact that he stayed out there and did not get rushed into the training room probably is a good sign.
Still has a few weeks before week 1.
Yeah.
We should also mention the 6 guys that we didn't see.
Right.
Well, Jefferson, obviously. The other 5 being Andrew Van Ginkel, C.J. Ham,
Harrison Smith.
Harrison Smith wasn't spotted at all, hasn't been spotted at the facility by media, or at least by us, all week. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Kevin O'Connell mentioned that it was an illness with Harrison, one that's seemingly keeping him out of the facility. And then the other guys, the 2 other ones that missed.
Levi Drake Rodriguez,
and then there was Christian Darrisaw sat out today but practiced yesterday, so he alternated days with the Patriots. And I think Darrisaw got quite a bit of work on Wednesday of this week against the Patriots. You guys talked to him afterward, right?
Yeah, I was over there, and he was in the Christian way. He was very reserved talking about it, but you could tell that he was excited to have been back out there and getting reps against another team and not just his own team. So I think he was grateful to be back out there. He kind of just was like, this is similar to the McCarthy talk, another box to check in this recovery, and we'll see. And he's like, I know the trainers are putting me out there every day with exactly what they are comfortable with me doing. And obviously we've talked about the training staff a lot here. And so we're still waiting to see if that's going to be a week 1 situation. And I think the fact that you're seeing him get some work against the Patriots is a good sign, but I don't know if it firms up anything regarding that conversation.
Yep. I should also mention, it made me think of Diggs apparently saying on a podcast, I don't know if I'll be ready for week 1. And Mike Vrabel was asked about that. And Mike Vrabel was like, you really believe that? It's just interesting with Stefon. No matter where you go, it's interesting.
Yeah. It's not a circus that we will see come through here again for, maybe ever.
Yeah.
But you might see a snap or two of Stefon Diggs on Saturday at noon.
Maybe you'll hear from him.
When the Vikings, presumably all second and third and fourth stringers, take on the Patriots and whoever they decide to put on the field. That game is at noon at US Bank Stadium. We will have all of our typical coverage on thestartribune.com. We will have a post-game pod up on the YouTube or wherever you listen to it on the Access Vikings channel. And we will chat with you guys again soon. It will be back to just us at practice coming up next week, so we'll get a little bit even more detailed with our takes and observations for you again.